Skull Rock Podcast, where you hear the stories behind the adventures. With your hosts, Aljon and Dave Bossert.
Welcome to Skull Rock Podcast. I'm Aljon, musician and longtime Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, and pop culturist.
And I'm Dave Bossert, artist, filmmaker, author, and forget about it. I'm up in New York right now. You know, welcome to the Skull Rock Podcast.
Yes,
Aljon, we've got a busy show. We're dropping part 2 of our conversation with Joe Lanzisero. You just had a peek at the rest of the year and all the incredible guests we're going to be having on. It's unbelievable, and I marvel at the fact, Aljon, that you and I have done over 300 episodes now, and that we're approaching our 6th anniversary in October.
Wow. It's insane, isn't it? I can't believe it.
It's totally crazy. It's totally crazy. And what's so gratifying is getting all the great comments we have been over the years from our listeners. And the listener audience just keeps growing. It's just amazing to me.
It really is. And it is also something I'm grateful for, man. I love talking and catching up with you every single week, but I love the fact that our listeners are so loyal and really are the engine that makes this go. I mean, we like to tell the stories. We like to document the art form of animation, but all these great people. But man, it's the fans. It's really cool that everyone's still on board for this journey for the past 6 years, seemingly. So that's awesome.
It really is. And I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that we keep going. And I think part of the reason we keep going, Aljon, is because you and I like each other and we're having a good time every week.
We're not one of those Hollywood assholes, right?
That's right.
We're going to talk about that coming up.
Right.
Yeah, you know, we try to keep things PG here from time to time. But having said that, you mentioned it, Dave. It is past our 300 mark. You go back to Joe Lanzisero last week, The Soul of Imagineering. I love the fact that you guys have these discussions, and we have Joe back into the hot seat once again for this week. But I want to mention to everybody that we do have this contest running, Dave. You've got your new book coming up, and I want everybody to just go ahead and register to win this amazing opportunity to get these books before they go on sale.
That's right. It's going to be Walt Disney World War II, Animation on the Front Lines. This is a tome. It is 384 pages, and it is profusely illustrated. I don't think there's a single well, there might be 1 or 2 pages where there's no image, but I mean, I have to say there's images on every single page.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, until you get the index.
You know, all of my friends that follow the show absolutely cannot wait for this book. This is something that they love, and they've seen, you know, essays. You've talked about this before. We've talked about it on the show, but it is amazing. Cannot wait for this book. And once again, no purchase necessary to win. All you have to do is just follow us on all the social medias, all the podcast forums. Just go ahead and click that, and we make it so easy. Once again, it's open to individuals for at least 18 years of age. And then, of course, if you live outside of the United States, you can win too, but you have to pay for the shipping of the book, this tome, if you will. Dave's mentioned.
There you go. Yeah.
The entry period is from now until August 16th, so you have a few more days to go ahead and enter. The drawing will close August 16th at 11:59 p.m. Central. And so all you have to do is just do the rules are right there. We're going to have the link in the show notes so that everyone can go ahead and register to win. We already have a great amount of entries, and cannot wait to do the drawing for the 3 lucky individuals who will win this book.
So I'm hoping more than 3 people have entered.
Yes, more than 3 people have entered. Yeah, more than 3 people have entered. So yes, it'll be really good, and I cannot wait to draw the winner at random. We have this really cool randomizer, so I'm going to put this in a spreadsheet, and they're going to choose. We'll probably do a video or something. I could do the video on
and
Facebook
do me a favor.
and
Let's share the book cover again.
The book cover. Oh shoot, Dave, I gotta call that up. Hold on, I'm not ready.
Yeah, that's okay. That's all right.
I'll insert it in post. How about that?
All right, that's fine.
I'll
That's
insert it in
good.
post.
You
Okay.
do, yes.
So
Fix it in post, Aljon.
here we go. We'll fix it in post. It'll be great. Anyway, great. I'm happy about that. Joe Lanzisero Part 2 coming up, Dave. I love that as well. But go ahead. Let's talk about what we've been streaming in our picks.
Pam, have you know, she wrote this great review of my poetry book.
That's my pick.
I read a great review.
Your girlfriend got a great review.
Oh, that's my pick, too. Sorry.
Excuse me while I start the projector.
Skull Rock Podcast, Picks of the Week.
Dave, what have you been watching?
Well, I have to tell you, Aljon, I didn't get a chance to go out and see Spider-Man, which I was hoping to do. But so what I have to talk about is just all stuff that I've been watching online. And first and foremost, as I've been going through, and I keep going through boxes, Aljon, I keep finding stuff. I'm up here in New York helping to clean out my mother's house. I keep finding stuff here. But last week or so, I came across a birthday card that John Cleese had given me. And it got me thinking about Fawlty Towers. And I watched the first 6 episodes, the first season of Fawlty Towers, which was done in 1975, if you can believe that.
Yes.
It still holds up. It's still absolutely fantastic. It's a classic British sitcom starring John Cleese and Connie Booth. It was created by those two. It stars John Cleese as Basil Fawlty, who owns Fawlty Towers, a hotel. And Prunella Scales plays his wife. Connie Booth, who helped create the show with John Cleese, she plays Polly. And then Andrew Sachs, who plays Manuel, the waiter, who's absolutely brilliant, one of the funniest characters. I have to tell you, I've watched these episodes so many times over the years, but every 5 years or 10 years or so, I go and watch this again. And I did it last week. I just binge watched the first 6 episodes of Fawlty Towers. It still holds up. It's hilarious. It's just brilliant comedy at the highest order. So I highly recommend it. You can check it out. I'm trying to see where did I actually watch that.
It's available on Prime, right?
Yeah, I watched it on Prime. So
there you go.
So check it out on Prime. And just as an FYI, I think most people who have seen it, it gets 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. 100%
Crazy.
on Rotten Tomatoes. 8.8 out of 10 on IMDb. So
awesome.
Now, to bring us forward into 2026, I've been watching Cape Fear, and I may have talked about this after I watched the first few episodes, but I'm not done with it yet. I'm almost done with it. It's on Apple TV. Executive producers are Martin Scorsese and Steven Spielberg. This is an unbelievable series, I have to tell you. It gets 75% on Rotten Tomatoes, 6.7 out of 10. Javier Bardem is menacing. Everything about this show is menacing. This is so well done. Javier Bardem, Amy Adams, Patrick Wilson. It's a stellar cast. And it's essentially a happily married couple faces a growing threat when a notorious killer from their past, Max Cady, is released from prison and seeks revenge. Aljon, this is so beautifully shot down in, I believe, Charleston, South Carolina.
Wow.
It is one of the best performances I've ever seen from Javier Bardem. I mean, he's a chilling character. And not only that, the music in this series is a character in and of itself, and it is menacing. That music is menacing throughout this series. So I highly recommend this. Check out Cape Fear on Apple TV. It really is an edge of the seat type of show. Okay.
Amazing.
I did check out The Hawk, which is a new comedy series. They're half-hour episodes. Season 1 dropped on Netflix, and it stars Will Ferrell. And I gotta tell you, you're gonna have to sort of push yourself through the first couple episodes, and then it starts picking up steam a little bit, but it is not as great as you would think it should be. It stars Will Ferrell, Fortune Feimster, Luke Wilson, Molly Shannon is in this. She's fabulous. Jimmy Tatro, and it follows Lonnie Hawkins, which is the Will Ferrell character, 2004's top golfer, as he struggles to recapture his magic late in his career, refusing to believe he's anything other than one stroke away from golf's greatest comeback. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 31%, which is a bit harsh, I think. IMDb gives a 6.4 out of 10, and I'd probably give it a 6 out of 10 personally, because there are very funny moments, but there's other, you gotta, like I said, you really have to stick to it and get through those first 2 episodes, because they're not great, but it does start to pick up steam after that. So you can check that out on Netflix, but I'm giving it a lukewarm, middling type review. Okay.
Okay.
And then over on Prime, I watched a show called Deciet. It's a 4-part true crime drama miniseries from BritBox, and you can see it on Prime. And it following the controversial 1992 undercover honey trap police operation targeting prime suspect Colin Stagg after the murder of Rachel Nichol on Wimbledon Common. So this is based on a true crime story.
Interesting.
And it's very, very gripping, and there's a real twist at the end in the last episode, and it's just something I would absolutely recommend. It's 4 roughly 45-minute episodes, examining the controversial honey trap at the heart of the high-pressure investigation into the devastating murder of Rachel Nichol, a young mother brutally attacked in front of her 2-year-old son on Wimbledon Common in London in 1992. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 73%. IMDb gives it 6.9 out of 10. Personally, I would sit there and tell you it's a solid 8 in my book. It's extremely well done. Check that out on BritBox and Prime. That's what I've been watching, Aljon. What have you been watching?
Well, Dave, I saw the big one, Spider-Man Brand New Day.
Oh, awesome.
And I have to tell you, now I sound like you. I have to tell you guys, it's awesome. It is absolutely a joy to watch. Couple things that I will say, I'll go ahead and jump to the end. Is it worth your time? Yes. Would I watch it again? I will. Most certainly. I most certainly will. A forgotten Peter Parker lives alone as Spider-Man until mounting pressures triggers a dangerous change and powerful new enemy emerges. It lives up to the hype. It is 2 hours and 25 minutes long. I was not aware of that. It's a long
Go by
film.
fast for you? Did it move?
It moved. I would say 75% of it was moving.
Okay.
The other 25% of it I thought was world building setup. A lot of it, I think, there's some story beats from the original Raimi Spider-Man, and I cannot wait to get your take on this, Dave, because a lot of this film was shot practically. using cables. The web slinging was real. I mean, I really wanted to put my thoughts down on paper because this film is very expansive. But I will say that director Destin Daniel Cretton, amazing. He did Shang-Chi as well as some other great films. He enlisted Jackie Chan's stunt team for this, and so the street level melee fighting that that you see in the trailer, like all that kung fu and stuff that's been put in there, is really well done. So the action scenes are
Aljon,
great.
I got to tell you, I love hearing that they're doing a lot of this stuff practically and not CG. I did see some videos online of some of the stunts being filmed. And you know, you're talking about all the cables and the characters on, you know, the actors on cables running across the top of a train and stuff like that. It's
Yeah.
very impressive to see them doing that and not just doing it as CG, which I'm thrilled about.
Yeah, absolutely. And you worked on Spider-Man, so you know, it's really, really cool how it's like a love letter to fans of Spider-Man and comic book fans. If you're a hardcore Spider-Man comic book nerd, you're going to love the fact that their mood board had so many of these iconic Spider-Man comic book covers that they faithfully recreated in the film. The slow motion that they shot in real time. Unbelievable. Tom Holland should be commended for embodying Peter Parker. And I really feel that in this film, you see a solitary, you know, man actor trying to live his life, trying not to get in his old friends involved, because of course this is a sequel to Spider-Man, the last Spider-Man film, No Way Home.
Yeah.
Where he, you know, he was erased from Doctor Strange erased the memory of him from his friends' lives, from the lives of everybody. He was doxxed and exposed in the last film, and now he can live his life. But he's living his life as Spider-Man, and he has to deal with the fact that his Aunt May was murdered. He has to deal with the fact that he has no friends. He is 100% Spider-Man, and without spoiling it, the big bad in this is not what you think it is. It is completely twisted, put on its head, and for 2.5 hours, you're taken for a ride. And while the first part of the film was a little bit slow, it kicks into gear in the second part. I will say that the rest of the cast were amazing. I will say that there are some surprises in here. John Bernthal, the Punisher, that we're going to talk about in a little bit, the relationship between him and Peter Parker, Tom Holland, is amazing. It's great. It's like they are the odd couple. And while the scenes of them in the film were small, they were meaningful. Zendaya is amazing. She is great. Jacob Batalon back as Ned Leeds, amazing. They're both in there as well. There's some other surprises in there that you'll see. As I look through the cast, you'll know who it is. You can see it. But Tom Holland, amazing. Mark Ruffalo, fun. All right. Don't expect a whole lot from the other Marvel characters that are in here to help build the world and set the stage for the next film. But it's really all about Tom Holland Spider-Man and this metamorphosis he undergoes and this hunt for the big bad. So big marks on special effects, sound, music, acting, the screenwriting, everything about it is great. I give it an 8, Dave. 8 out of 10.
Okay.
Without spoiling it. So go out there, watch Spider-Man Brand New Day, and make sure you go to the bathroom ahead of time, because you're going to need it. You're not going to want to miss it.
I'm actually going to try and go see it this week when I get back down to Delaware.
Awesome, Dave. You're going to love it. I can't wait to hear your take on it. All right, let's move on to Punisher. Of course, before we saw Spider-Man, which was amazing, we saw Punisher: One Last Kill. And this is an amazing tour de force. It is brutal, bloody, and sad all at the same time. John Bernthal really just encapsulates the character of the Punisher. He is he's got PTSD. He's a veteran who returns to action when Maganucci from the Punisher series on Netflix, on now you can see it on Disney Plus, is wheelchair bound, a crime matriarch. She seeks revenge after he killed his sons, forcing him to fight off the city's criminals descending upon him. While a lot of this plays like a video game, and I mean that first person shooter, you're going down this crime infested apartment building that Frank Castle lives in, John Bernthal's character. It's amazing, the acting from what you can tell on his face. There's hardly any dialogue. It's just, this is the character. Judith Light plays that matriarch, the Magnucci, who is swearing revenge on Frank Castle for killing his family. It's really well done. Tons of great action, like I said, grounded in street action. There's a lot of gunplay, and it's completely brutal. Director Ronaldo Marcus Green gets the character, gets John Bernthal. I think John Bernthal was one of the writers as well. Judith Light, Deborah Ann Wool is in there as well. Great acting for everybody. You feel for the Punisher. You feel for the neighborhood that's crime infested. Judith Light's character is despicable in every way. You just want to get out there and kick her ass. I mean, it's good. It's really well done. So if you have,
I'm sold, man. Shut up and take my money.
There you go. If you have 48 minutes to kill, this is probably the best use of it. It is strictly for adults. It's one of Marvel's, specials, much like the specials they did with the Guardians of the Galaxy. This is time well spent with a character that's super deep, and John Bernthal, man. What wonderful stuff. So recommend Punisher One Last Kill. 10 out of 10 for me. It's great.
All right.
So Bad Influence, the Dark Side of Kidfluencing. You know how much I love my Netflix documentaries, Dave, and this one will break your heart. Revealing look into YouTube star Piper Raquel's world, her relationship with her manager, mother Tiffany Smith, and the untold stories of past collaborations who were part of her content creating team. This is a miniseries. It's a really quick 3 solid episodes. It's really sad how, once again, this parent gets a bunch of, her child into this world of influencing. Her YouTube channel takes off. She's an aspiring actress, this kid, aspiring dance and pageant star, and gets put into this position. And then all of a sudden the wheels start coming off. She builds a huge following, millions upon millions, brings her friends into this. And then her mom is complete Looney Tunes. And
total stage
starts
mother.
Playing these mind games.
Total.
Yep, stage mother, but even worse, Dave. I mean, the kids involved in this squad, if you will, of influencers, they were hurt in a lot of mentally really bad ways. I mean, there was assault, there was abuse, a bunch of different things in here that kids should not be subject to. And it's things that follow them to this day. It's amazing, but it's also very sad. The Dark Side of Kidfluencing is one of those really great, well-done documentary series. So if this topic interests you, if you're into true crime, get into this. It's on Netflix. Check it out. Last but not least, and I did watch a lot this week for whatever reason, but I did watch this movie, Slanted. Dave, it's difficult being a minority, going to school. It's a really trying time just to be a kid. High school is a brutal place, but to be a minority, it can be difficult when you bring a lot of the different culture into a predominantly, just a predominantly, American, school. You come from a different place, you eat different food, you look different, you might sound different, and it's difficult. And this movie kind of triggered me in a little way.
I was going to say, Aljon, you're Chinese and Filipino.
Mm-hmm.
And so how did it affect you?
It was hard. It was hard because there are a lot of things going into school that I didn't think of. And I sat and watched this with my wife, and I turned and I looked at her and I said, I haven't felt this way since I was a kid. watching this. It's the story is about an insecure Chinese American teenager who undergoes experimental surgery to appear white, hoping to secure the prom queen title and peer acceptance. And
Is this for real?
Is this for real? Well, it's loosely based on director Amy Wang's her life and experiences. But of course, this is a body horror film. It's rated R. It's 144 minutes long. This is streaming on I believe, on Paramount Plus. And so it's basically like The Substance meets The Substance meets just whatever, right? I mean, it's kind of like that. I feel like it's a body horror dark comedy. And I will say that the star Shirley Chin is wonderful. McKenna Grace, who plays her post-surgery, is wonderful. Her Chinese family, the actors for her family are great. And the kids at school are great too. However, there are some issues. I really would have wanted to see the interplay between her two selves, right? Her quote unquote white self and her Chinese self. So a scene with McKenna Grace looking into the mirror with Shirley Chin, it was something that I thought was going to happen, never happened. The kind of surgery that she gets is kind of like it's kind of a mysterious kind of thing where she walks into. I thought it was kind of like this tempted by the devil kind of situation where she goes in and basically once again you deal with this watch what you wish for, because when it does come true, it's going to turn out completely different than what you expect. And the things that I found triggering for me, basically the thought of going into school, eating different food, not knowing where your place is, trying to learn how to kind of get into certain cliques or groups of people, where you find yourself, where your tribe is, trying to find your friends, and how ultimately she betrays her friends in order to gain acceptance by this group of mean girls that run the school. It's sad. It's really sad. And there's some things and mannerisms in there about her trying to, put a clothespin on her nose so that she doesn't have an Asian nose. There are things in there about how her family works really hard and her father becomes a janitor and cleans houses. And of course, her friends mock her because of what her father does for a living. I mean, it's pretty bad. But where I feel like the film excels in telling those stories of heartbreak and acceptance, where it falls flat is how it ultimately gets paid off. And the film abruptly ends. And I was like, what? What happened? You have some payoffs, and I was hoping that things, you know how things are, Dave, things lead to the prom, right?
Yeah.
You said everything. And you're waiting for that Carrie type of ending at the prom. The Substance did a very similar thing. It didn't pay off. And that's what sucks. What could have been a 7, a 7 out of 10 ended up being a 5 for me. And that's too bad, because this movie had a lot of great things working for the cast, the story, but it ultimately didn't pay off. So, but if you're interested in this film, it does deal with some very interesting stories. On that basis alone, I would recommend it just to see it, but understand that you probably will get let down at the end. A 5 out of 10 for me.
That's terrible.
It is.
It's awful when there's no payoff.
It is, especially when you get your heart pulled at, by something like she goes to eat lunch for the first time in high school, and she brings in her bento box, and everybody looks at her because it smells a certain way, and then she ends up running off and then dumping her food into the trash. Like it's a sad thing, but it does happen.
That's awful. It's awful.
It is.
Well, I mean, when you deal with mean people in high school, I mean, it's just awful.
Isn't it the thing that stays with you as an adult? Dealing with bullies.
It's terrible.
Yeah, it really is. And that's the saddest part of all. Well, gang, we have so much to talk about. Those are what we've been watching this week. What have you been watching? Let us know, and maybe we'll review it in an upcoming episode. All right, Dave, let's now talk and move into the news of the week. Dave, Spider-Man brand new day. Holy cow, Dave. What a juggernaut of a film this is.
Unbelievable, right?
Absolutely. Spider-Man brand new day, according to the Hollywood Reporter, leaps to record 168 million first day for historic opening weekend. I will say that this is the film. This is the film you've been working for. Now, Lucasfilm, take note, because this is exactly what should have happened to Star Wars coming back. This is what should have happened. And let that be a lesson to you, Disney. I mean, I know this is a Sony film. Of course, Marvel is all over it. But once again, Tom Holland is back with a vengeance. It's a Marvel web slinger and Sony's superhero feature that lands at the box office. Tops an impressive debut for 2021's No Way Home. I mean, it knocked it out of the park, Dave. Really
amazing.
It collected $168 million domestically on Friday for 4,487 North American screens. And the cinema score from audiences for the studio is now projecting 325 million in its opening weekend, which would count as the second highest domestic launch ever. But rival estimates see the film's domestic start as potentially topping Avengers Endgame, which opened at $357 million domestically and a mind-boggling $1.2 billion globally in 2019.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, this is what the industry needs, right? It needs a win.
Well, these are the types of movies that are pulling people back into the movie theaters. You need these big tentpole movies. And, The Odyssey 2 weeks ago was one. This is, the next one in the shoot. And that's why the theaters are having a banner year now. It's because Hollywood is turning out these types of films. And I hope they continue to do so.
Well, continuing to do so would be The Odyssey, projected $57 million weekend, domestic total $402 million worldwide, already past 700 million box office. That's insane. Toy Story 5 continues to serve it up, projected 6.6 with a worldwide of 1.03 billion with a B. That's insane. The Minions continue to score, right? Minions and Monsters. I can't wait to see this with the kids. 1.68.5 million. Moana still doing okay.
You mean billion? You said million.
It says so it's billion.
Well, wait.
Okay.
Is that the weekend take?
It's weekend take.
What was the global? What's the global gross on it?
I'll have to look at the global gross for whatever reason it cut it off here in the report. But Moana still is hanging in there with 5.5 million, and then rounding out the top 10, Hades Town, which is a musical, and then The Invite, and then I Want Your Sex, which is also new, getting 1 million. So once again, great stuff there. Dave, it looks like Disney announced its 2026 accelerator at the end of July. 5 growth stage companies focused on robotics, generative AI, data synthesis. And so, yeah, that's it. I mean, Disney is doubling down on tech. So there you go. I don't know what else we could say about that, but we talk about AI so much on this show, Dave, especially with your talk with Joe Lanzisero, with generative AI and AI tools all the time. So
yeah. Look, there's some crazy stuff happening with AI. I mean, they've got to get their arms around it. This past week, Anthropic, which has Claude, they were testing a new version of Claude. And in the testing process, they're feeding in prompts. Well, the particular language model went out and hacked into several companies' databases to get answers. So it's going rogue here and there, and this is what people are afraid of, because once it gets out there and starts doing its own thing, that's going to pose a problem. You know,
Skynet is real, Dave, is it not?
right? Activate Skynet, right? I mean,
It's real. I mean, here comes the robot uprising. I mean, here it comes. Whether you like it or not, you better shield yourself. I got to get off the grid, Dave.
We're sitting here laughing about it, but maybe we're going to be doomed.
Oh my God, Dave. Oh, it's been foretold. It's been foretold in the data centers. Okay, Dave. So let's circle back around to this Hollywood asshole thing.
Yes.
All right. So
this was an article in the Hollywood Reporter that I sent to you. It said, "Bring back the Hollywood asshole," and I think it was a little tongue in cheek, but there was a little bit of truth to it, because what you have is you have a lot of executives who step into some of these studios, and they think of themselves as being creative and being artists. And
yes.
you want to know something? Louis B. Mayer, Lou Wasserman, those executives, Jack Warner, they weren't considered creative. They were shrewd businessmen who had gut feelings about what people wanted to see,
Mhm.
and that's what their success was. But I can tell you, Aljon, having worked at Disney for decades, there were people that came into Disney, with MBAs, or they were, chief financial officer types. And as soon as they got into Disney, all of a sudden they were fancying themselves as being creatives, that they were somehow a Disney animator, or, a Disney artist, or, a Disney creative mind. And that's not the case, you know and that's where a lot of this trouble is coming into, and that's why there's films being made that people don't want to see, the masses don't want to see, because there's things being chosen that you're sitting there scratching your head and going, well, they're trying to send some political message out to the world, and really the people going to the theaters want to see films like Spider-Man and the Odyssey. They want to see epic films that allow them to escape their lives. They don't want to be spoon fed some sort of political crap, and so this was a very telling article, and I thought it was very well done.
It's funny. They point out these kind of fictional Hollywood executives like Jeremy Piven
Yeah.
from Entourage, or Tom Cruise's The Tropic Thunder, which was an amazing cameo, by the way. I couldn't believe that it was in it. But I think that it's interesting. These executives that come in, they just want to put their fingerprints on something, right? It's totally ego driven. And then the other thing too is, I just feel that people want creatives to be creative, and people want those people to be. They want some guidelines, I guess, from people that know how to make money. They want to be bold. Artists want to be bold, and these producers and Hollywood executives should be able to use their gut, as you said, and empower that.
Yeah,
Right?
I like the fact that he used the term executive artists. They're not artists. I mean, he's
No.
mocking them, but the fact of the matter is that you know some of these quote executive artists think that, well, we'll just keep throwing millions of dollars at the project, and that'll make it great. And the fact of the matter is that if you put some constraints on the artist, they become much more creative in getting their vision on the screen, by working within a box and not working with just this open-ended checkbook of I can spend whatever I want on it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I just feel like that article really hit home, to as far as I was concerned. As I was reading it, I was sitting there nodding my head going, you go, man, this guy wrote a great piece. And
Well, right.
and I would really encourage people to look it up online. It's in the Hollywood Reporter, and it's the title of it is "Bring Back the Hollywood Asshole,"
It's good.
and it's a really well done piece for the Hollywood Reporter. So I enjoyed reading it. and
I think
agreed with what he was saying, you know.
right. Well, I think that's a lesson for a lot of different jobs and careers that are out there when it comes to the creative aspect and the business aspect, which is why I like, some of the direction of some of these studios where they have that business person out front and they have the creative person and they work together to bring forward those type of ideas and projects, much like Disney today. Disney is very much in the same way, Lucasfilm, Marvel. So I'm hoping they can correct whatever it is and get back to their core business, right?
Yeah.
Get back to the core business.
And look at it when you look back in history. Look at Roy O. Disney was the suit, the business guy behind his brother Walt. Walt was the creative guy. Walt came up with the things he wanted to do. Roy went and figured out how to finance those things and how to make them happen. And that was that. It's that yin yang partnership between a business mind and a creative mind, and you need more of that in Hollywood. You don't need these so-called executive artists, who think they're somehow an uber creative, because it's all BS.
Exactly. I tell you what isn't BS is this life situation that you just brought to my attention as we hit record, Dave. Tell us a little bit about what happened to Glenn Keane this weekend. Former guest of the show, prolific Disney artist himself. Dave, what happened to Glenn?
Glenn was out hiking in Arizona, and he was on Mummy Mountain in Paradise Valley out in Arizona, hiking with his grandkids. And it's very hot out there. They're under a heat dome right now, and you had triple digit temperatures. And Glenn got, I guess, a little bit lightheaded, and one of his grandkids called, or his grandkid called 911, and they went and they were able to airlift Glenn off of that mountain, and thankfully he's okay. He's completely fine. Kudos to John Musker. There he is. You can see him being interviewed. Kudos to John Musker, who got a beautiful caricature up, poking a little fun at Glenn. And calling him, he's one of the greatest of all time Disney animators, the GOAT, but he's not a mountain goat, and, and so
we can laugh about it now.
So we're all thankful that Glenn is okay. I thought John did a beautiful job on his caricature, and Glenn responded to it, by the way. So all's well that ends well, but it just goes to show you when you're in the desert Southwest, when they're having these types of triple digit temperatures, you really need to watch what you're doing to keep yourself hydrated and all of that. So we're just glad he's okay.
Look at that footage, Dave.
I know.
And this to us, I'm showing the article from New York Post and the local Fox affiliates footage on it. And wow, what a ride. I mean, they had to strap him in and they airlifted him to safety.
Yeah.
And so he was hanging like an action star on that helicopter, was he not?
He was. And again, all I can say is I am just so glad he's okay,
Same.
So
same.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Thank goodness for that. All right, Dave. We move from assholes and airlifting to the trailer. You mentioned this to me, and this is great. Lanterns. Once again, that's really good stuff, Dave. You can check it out on HBO. I will say this, Dave. You saw the trailer. What do you think? Because I mean, you watch your fair share of superhero movies and TV shows.
John, I'm just gonna say right off the bat here that I watched this trailer, and this is movie quality for a television show.
Yeah.
This is when you watch this trailer and you see some of the special effects in here. It is absolutely astounding to me that this is a streaming show, because it feels like a couple of 2-hour movies that they turned into a streamer. It is so well done.
I can't wait to see it myself. I will tell you that I've not been let down by DC TV.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed Peacemaker. It's
Okay.
irreverent. It's insane.
Yeah.
James Gunn did great, and I can't wait for this. I mean, this looks to me like a hit TV show. Lanterns follows veteran Green Lantern Hal Jordan and rookie Jon Stewart, intergalactic peacekeepers investigating a murder in the American heartland that draws them deeper into a darker mystery. Created by Chris Mundy, Damon Lindelof, and Tom King for HBO, the series blends superhero action with a detective drama. It will be on August 16th, so it drops. How about that for Lanterns? Dave, I'm down with that. And, they have some really big creatives behind it. I mean, Chris Mundy, Damon Lindelof, Tom King, those are some big names.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to seeing this. It looks really well done. And I hope that the trailer doesn't deceive me, you know?
I hope so, either. I mean, there's something to be said about some of these great TV series that look like they should be films. I mean, a lot of them are on Paramount. You've got HBO Max with this DC stuff. So, congratulations to them on what looks to be like a pretty awesome show.
Yeah.
Skull Rock Podcast.
You know, you're like that little arrow on your hat, straight and shining, and that's the way I'll always remember you.
I'll always remember you. I'll always remember you.
I'll always remember you, Sharon.
They hang you, I'll always remember you.
In memoriam.
This is our tribute, our roll call, if you will, and it's unfortunate because, if you're a big fan of The Sopranos, which Dave, I know you are, Vincent, the big mobster himself, dies at the age of 80. After 2 decades of running nightclubs around New York, he became an actor at age 42, stood out in Gotti and got whacked by David Chase, and appeared twice on Broadway. Look at that face, man. I mean, he is that character, is he not?
He really is. He was a consummate, mafioso gangster type of character. He was great in The Sopranos, it was always a joy to watch him on screen, because he was the embodiment of some of these people in the New York area, that were involved in, the mafia families,
100%. I mean, he's been in a bunch of stuff, as you can see here. A real life wise guy. He's been in over 200 movies and TV projects, most often as the Italian American bad guy, and twice on singing roles in Broadway, man. I mean, he was in Brian De Palma's Carlito's Way, beautiful film. Of course, Scorsese's Goodfellas. If he was an Italian American, he was involved in the mafia. This guy was in it for sure. He will be missed. What a great actor. Speaking of which, Dave, Chuck Russell, all right, the director of The Mask and third Nightmare on Elm Street movie, dies at the age of 74. Yeah. His work, including The Blob, a remake of the 58 horror classic. I mean, Chuck Russell, how about that, Dave?
Yeah, very sad. I mean, 74, that's so young, it's crazy.
Absolutely. I mean, this guy right here, he's been known for Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, one of my favorite films here, as well as The Blob from 1988. And I remember that film. I actually saw the remake of The Blob because I was such a horror fan when I was a kid, Dave. Imagine that. I know. But I saw his remake as well. But I think a lot of people will remember him from The Mask in 1994. And look at him right there with a very young Cameron Diaz in there as well. Yeah. My goodness. That's wild. But rest in peace. Wow. All right, gang, we're moving into the piece de resistance. This is number 2. Joe Lanzisero is back talking about the soul of Imagineering with Dave right here on Skull Rock Podcast.
Let's do it.
Hey, let's chat.
Let's chat afterwards. Let's chat. And he said, let's chat again.
Skull Rock Podcast. Interview time.
Well, Aljon, we are back again for week 2 with Imagineer extraordinaire Joe Lanzisero, who's done everything from work at Walt Disney Productions on animated films to story to character design to animation to transitioning into Imagineering and doing all kinds of stuff until he became a highfalutin executive. Joe, welcome back to the Skull Rock Podcast.
Hi, here I am, then ex-high. That's what I should have on my business card. Ex-highfalutin executive. But funny, Dave. Interesting you said that because, towards the end of my career at Disney, these young people would come into my office, and their question to me would be, Joe, how do I become a senior vice president? And I would say to them, you know what? That was never my goal. That was never my intention. My goal was, I had this great opportunity to design and create wonderful things, for people to enjoy. That was always my goal, and for various reasons, my work was acknowledged. And, it's the Peter principle. I got, kicked up the ladder till I was a VP and no longer really doing what I was good at doing, design, hands-on designing. But it was interesting, that they thought that was the goal to become a VP, and that should never have been the goal. It was never my goal anyway.
Yeah, something, I would sit there and argue that when you go into a career that you are passionate about and you just go in every day and work at it and have a ball and have fun, that those things just happen to you. They happen around you. Somebody one day says, "Oh, we've got to move you up because we want to hold on to you." These are the conversations that go on behind the scenes. This person has done a fantastic job on this attraction. We've got to reward him in some way by giving him a bump, right? I mean, that's really what happens. But if you're the person, you're just having a ball doing what you're doing, and they just keep sort of bumping you along, and it's awesome.
It was, yes.
I mean, listen, I used to joke when they used to come around with our paychecks, when you'd have like somebody come in your office and hand.
Oh, I remember it in animation.
Right?
They got a paper paycheck.
Yeah, you got a paper paycheck in an envelope. And I would always quip, "Oh, I keep forgetting they pay me for this. I'm having so much fun." Right. So those are the jobs, if you're fortunate enough to be in that kind of a position where you love what you're doing, it's not really a job, it's a passion.
It was a passion, and that passion, drove us,
Yeah. So we're back again. This is week 2 with you. And, I love it when you and I trade emails and you come back on the show just to talk about something, that's relevant to what's going on. But cruising is a big deal. Obviously, people love to go on cruises. There's even a movement to kind of do like cruise yachting.
Yeah.
I'm sure like the Gen Zs and millennials want a yacht, instead of cruise like the old people, that kind of stuff. But I would sit there and say, like, I've been on so many Disney cruises because I was fortunate enough I worked on a lot of show installations and did things like worked with you, with your team on the with Jerry Reese and Tim Landry on the animation magic stuff that went on to the cruise ship. So to be involved with that, to see some of that stuff happening, and to just be on cruises. I mean, I've gone on as a guest speaker and things like that. Disney really does it right. And people have said to me over the years, aren't there a lot of kids on those cruises? And I said, surprisingly, no. I think Disney does such a great job in having activities and places for kids to go to. But talk a little bit about the demographic, and then I want to get into sort of the actual building of these ships.
Sure. And you hit upon the Disney difference, or at least what we set out to do. And I was fortunate. I was with the cruise lines at the very start when we first started working on the Disney Magic, and the intention was to make purpose. This is how they framed it. They called it purpose-built ships, and purpose-built ships was, for the first time, designing a cruise ship experience, both programmatically and physically, for the family. Because remember, prior to Disney getting into the cruise market, there were no real family cruises. Now, there was the Big Red Boat that had licensed Disney characters. But they were just kind of, it was really kind of just pasted on. It wasn't core to the experience or really designed part of the experience. And I know that firsthand because when I first started working on the Magic, or were given the assignment to work on the Magic, I was assigned to help design the children's spaces. So they sent my then ex-wife and my daughter and me on one of those cruises on the Big Red Boat. And it was really kind of pathetic because they had taken what was, I guess, part of a restaurant or a casino and turned it into, quote, the kids space. And basically they bought some little tykes play equipment, put up some posters and called it the kids space. And I remember going back to Imagineering, and I had to write my report, and I said, well, the bar isn't low, the bar is non-existent. I said there really is no, real thought put into how they're catering to the kids. It was just totally an afterthought. And by the way, at that point, they had lost the license, the Big Red Boat. They had lost the license for the Disney characters, and they had licensed Warner Brothers characters. So they had Bugs Bunny and, Wile E. Coyote walking around in the spaces, but not even like a show with them. They were just there. So we really set out to think about, how are we going to create, and getting to your point about, when you go on the ships now, it's like, well, you don't see the kids everywhere. Well, that's because we design spaces specifically for the kids. We design spaces specifically for the adults. And then we design spaces where everybody can be together, because I think one of the things that really made that Disney cruise experience and makes it work is that very thing you talked about, that families can go on, everybody gets to have a great time, in their space or doing their thing. But then they also have all those communal moments, like in Animator's Palette or up on the upper decks, in the pools and in the water play areas, where, it brings the families together. And I think that's the thing, that's the secret sauce magic that makes those ships so popular.
I think you touched on something when you were talking about the Big Red Boat. I seem to remember that really was kind of Disney's sort of first foray, if you will, into the cruise world. Was that really just more of an education for them to get their sort of feet wet, so to speak, in what cruise ships were all about? Was there a little of that?
In fact, I think historically, I'm trying to remember back. I think at one point, it was Michael Eisner, by the way, who had this big interest in getting into the cruise business, and I think at one point they were actually thinking about buying the Big Red Boats.
Yeah.
And wisely he made the decision to to start from the ground up.
Yeah.
Come up with a whole new design for the ships. And it was pretty revolutionary at the time because, most cruise ships had, it was pretty standard, they had one large dining room that everybody would go to each night. And they would maybe change the theme. Oh, tonight's, fiesta night and we're serving margaritas and tacos. And then the next night is international night. And, we're going to have a Greek celebration or whatever. Whereas, Disney said, we're going to do rotational dining. We're going to have 3 distinct dining rooms at 3 different levels of, a high-end dining experience, a family dining experience, and kind of a mid-range dining experience. So that was a huge innovation in the industry. And then the other one was
which the industry followed,
which the industry has in a big way now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you look at those Royal Caribbean ships or Holland American ships, they all have multiple dining rooms with, that pretty much follow that
and they have
pattern established.
the upscale restaurants that you have to make reservations for, like, months in advance of your cruise and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And then the other thing was the purpose-built spaces, having dedicated children's spaces, having dedicated adult spaces, nightclub spaces, and then these communal spaces, the pool areas and and these dining rooms, entertainment dining rooms, where the whole family could come together. So that was pretty revolutionary. And again, a tip of the hat to Michael Eisner, because he really, I think he had a vision for it. Um, and kind of, and also he was the one that promoted this idea of the classic age of cruising, those beautiful cruise ships from the 1920s and the 1930s, with the two big smokestacks and the long decks and the promenades. Because she knew, it was great storytelling. It was romantic. It was the moment you looked at the ship, it took you back to another time and another place that evoked all these feelings. Um, and if you look at some of the early designs of the ships, it really went through this very, from being more theme parky like until it hit upon this more elegant design. And another gentleman who I have to mention, who was very instrumental in guiding the design of the ships, was Wing Chow. I don't know if you know Wing, but
I don't know him personally, but I know the name.
Yeah, Wing was very, very instrumental early on, working with Disney Development Company, because initially it was not Imagineering who was in charge of the design of the Disney Magic initially.
Wow.
And they were struggling a bit to try to find, because they were concerned about, it as a business and making sure that they weren't going to alienate the cruisers, but still try to create something that would also appeal to the Disney audience. And so they struggled at first. In fact, I remember, and I've told this story a number of times, when I first started working on the kids areas, I was directed by, and again, Imagineering was brought in just to work on a few separate little areas. We were not in charge of the overall design of the ship yet at that point. And one of them was the kids' spaces. And I remember the first direction I got from Disney Development was no IP. Now, can you imagine? So I struggled with that a little bit. So I just did and this was just before Toy Story was starting to work. So I kind of took a cue from Toy Story, and I made a giant toy box that the kids could go in. And I remember we had that first presentation with Michael Eisner, and I pitched my design, and there was a quiet moment there, and he goes, "Where's the Disney?" Those were Michael's words.
Yeah.
And he said, "This is a Disney ship." He goes, "Shouldn't this be Toy Story? Shouldn't there be Mickey Mouse?" He goes, "This is a Disney ship." And I looked around the room at the guys from Disney Development. I could see their faces kind of dropping, because I had kind of said the same thing to them. So, it was back to the drawing boards. And at that point, they realized, that they had to, embrace the brand.
Yes.
You're building a Disney ship, you got to embrace the brand. And so what was just a toy box actually became more Toy Story. We did a little Buzz Lightyear area, and then we did a for the younger kids, we did Peter Pan based. It was like Hook's Galleon, and we had the alligator from Peter Pan, and a little play area up on the crow's nest with a little slide and such. And so it delivered on what you would expect from a Disney, play experience, Disney Kids Club experience.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about how a cruise ship gets built. There's not a lot of places in the world that build cruise ships, am I right?
I think there's like 4 or 5, right? Currently, I think
right. You have in Germany,
France, Japan, somewhere out. There's very few, big. Oh, Italy, of course. In fact, that's where we built the first 2 ships. We built those in Fincantieri, which is not far from Venice.
Yeah.
In Maghera, which was super fun. That was great because I actually got to go and do some of the on-site installations when we were working there. And then, as you know, the next generation of cruise ships, when I then got the assignment to lead the design on the Dream and the Fantasy, we were building those in Papenburg, Germany.
Yeah.
And the reason why they chose Papenburg, and the company is called Meyer Werf, and they have since continued now to build all the next generation of ships for Disney, is because they had just built this gigantic shipyard where they could build indoors. In Fincantieri, a lot of the work was being done outside, which you were prone to bad weather.
Sure.
That the weather was that awful in Italy, but certainly in Germany where they were. But then now with this gigantic shipbuilding facility, and in fact, I think they could build 2 ships simultaneously inside this warehouse. Now, did you ever go to the shipyard?
No, I never went over there. I mean, I would never have had an occasion to go over there because I was always doing stuff that after the ship was built, projections and things like that,
Right. Yeah, I mean, because it was enormous. I mean, you walked into this building, it was like crazy big. And they,
well, I mean, wait, just what you said, they could build 2 cruise ships simultaneously in an enclosed warehouse.
Yeah.
I mean, my God.
And a lot of it free span because they had to have these giant cranes. They were a very innovative company. And I remember they got with Porsche Design and had Porsche help them, not necessarily with the design, but on the production of the ships. And so they adopted some of the car design or car factory. They basically created an assembly line like they do, in a car factory for the cabins, because the cabins are they just have to. Those cruise ships have 2,000 cabins on them, and they or 1,000 something, and they created basically like an assembly line. But the really cool smart thing they did, sounds crazy, they built the cabins upside down because it was easier to put all the electrical, all the air conditioning in, rather than the poor workers having to be, standing on their back. They could just put everything in. Then they would spin it around and do all the other finishing, which I thought was amazing.
So they built each cabin. It sounds to me like it's modular. So each cabin is essentially self-contained. And when they put it onto the cruise ship, they're just attaching plumbing and wiring and air conditioning.
It was kind of plug and play.
Wow.
And they brought them in. And because that was kind of the when you think about the ships, and actually backing up a little bit, and you're asking about the design of the ships, there has to be a lot of economy in the way you design things, because you only have, even as these ships get bigger and bigger, and they have grown. I think the most recent one that they just did for that's now in Singapore it's one of the largest ships now on,
it's like 7,000 passengers or something.
Yeah. It's crazy. But even then, you have to, there's it's called the GA, the general arrangement, is what they call the plan that you work on. And you have to kind of back into it, because if I'm building a ship for 2,000 passengers, I'm going to need X amount of kitchen space. I'm going to need X amount of laundry room. I'm going to need, because basically you're creating, it's a self-contained floating city,
Yes.
You have to feed these people. You got to have, you got to clean, you got to have water, all the things that, just the basic functional things that take up all the space. So you kind of work back from that, first figuring out where all the functional stuff needs to go in order to service it. And then you start carving out the entertainment piece, and then getting back to the actual staterooms. You're going to have 3 different classes of staterooms. You put all those in. Okay, now I got this much space left, and we got to put our dining rooms in, and you figure out where those are going to go and how big they're going to be. And then the ancillary spaces, the kids spaces, the nightclub spaces, of course, the retail, the photo shops, and all the other ancillary things to support the overall cruise experience. So it's a very interesting design challenge to do those ships. Fortunately, there were a lot of naval architects, really smart people that had been involved in the cruise industry for a long time and were able to help us, understand all that part. But then the Imagineers, we had the fun part, coming up with all the show elements and the thinking and the storytelling that, works to create that emotional experience for the guests.
And when you talk about staterooms and all the space, you also have to realize there's crew and they have to sleep. And they have crew spaces, right?
And I'll say this, Disney was very good. In fact, I think they were the first to really think more, and it makes sense when you think about Disney and the way they think about the cast members. I remember on the Magic and on the Wonder, I may have been one of the first ships that had a crew pool and a crew
really
and a crew nightclub. Yeah.
Wow.
And, same them. And then when we did the next generations of ships, we even bettered the
where were those? Were they off the I-5? You know what I'm talking about, right? They dubbed that corridor. There's a service corridor that runs from stern to bow. They call it the I-5.
Yeah. I think it was either was it in the bow of the ship or in the stern? I can't remember, but yeah, I mean, it was definitely out of guest view. Most guests didn't know it was there, but certainly a wonderful amenity for the crew. I remember, and we created a nightclub for the crew. Yeah. Which was good for them, but also a little challenge for the cruise operators, because you got to remember a lot of the cast members come from all over the world.
Yep.
Many of them, it's their first time away from home, off on a Disney cruise ship. And here they got a place where they can go and have drinks with their friends. And sometimes it would get a little out of control.
Well, that's a great segue into me asking you, what are some of the most outrageous stories that have happened on the cruise ship? I mean, clearly have there been guests that have jumped off their balconies into the water and things like that?
Well, Dave, you know as well as I do that Disney is very good at not wanting to publicize.
I know. That's why I ask cast members this.
And I would be breaking an oath to talk about some of the stories that I know about, but there were some crazy. I do know this, and I don't know if you know this or if the general public knows, but there is a morgue on the ship.
Oh, yes, on every cruise ship.
On every because people pass away.
When you have thousands of passengers, somebody's gonna, they're gonna have a heart attack or whatever while you're out.
Well, and especially if they're drinking heavily, dancing around like they think they're 20 years, 30 years younger than they really are. That, like you said, heart attacks happen. These things, these things happen. So,
but they do prepare for that, right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah.
Because I remember doing work, Joe, down at I
Port
think
Canaveral?
it was the Animal Kingdom Park.
Okay.
And I remember talking to, because we were doing some filming, and so we had, a park person attached to us, and I remember we were just bantering and chatting and stuff like that. But I didn't know this, but they had multiple paramedics, EMTs, spotted around the perimeter of the park, in the cast member areas. And
Sure.
if it was a particularly hot day down in Florida with high humidity and somebody, dropped from a heart attack, they were on them in like minutes.
Yeah.
And they got them into the backstage area to get them to the hospital.
Yeah.
And I just marveled at that. And I'm imagining the cruise ships had those accommodations to some degree.
Yeah, they had we had really well-designed, well-equipped health centers, often staffed by RNs. I think on a couple of the cruises, occasionally they would have real MDs on there, but certainly, with I think, and in fact, I think in some cases they had there's an operating room so they could do like an emergency appendectomy or something like that, where it was a life and death kind of thing that they could actually, they were equipped to be able to handle those kinds of emergency situations. So yeah, but these are all the kinds of things that Disney doesn't. They're there and they spend a lot of money and a lot of thought, designing them and making them, making sure that it's there if they need it, but it's not the kind of thing they want to, promote.
But yeah, but that is part of what makes these experiences. It makes the Disney difference, right? As Joe, was it Joe Rizzuto? No, Joe. Who was
Joe Rody?
No.
Oh, Jay Rizzulo.
Jay Rizzulo, thank you. That's who I was going for. Jay Rizzulo, I think, coined that term, the Disney difference.
Yeah.
And I really do believe that taking the extra steps and taking that care, and doing those types of things really does add to a better experience than if you were just going into, just some, carnival. You know what I mean? Where safety isn't first and foremost. I know Disney. I've always said this. Disney, from my perspective, has always gone above and beyond what they need to do from a safety standpoint.
Yeah, well, they know very well, to protect the business, and because it goes all the way back to Walt. When that he first coined the phrase "guests."
Yes.
We're customers. They weren't people. They weren't customers. He wanted to create a mindset with his cast members that these people need to be treated special. There's always I've often told the story that John Hench told, great John Hench, designer, again, came from animation, then went on to Imagineering. I think he worked well into his 90s at
I think
Imagineering.
almost 95, I think.
Yeah, John was great. And he tells the story about how when they were designing the original Disneyland, he was assigned, John was working on the stagecoaches. If you remember when Disneyland first opened, they had little stagecoaches that went through Frontierland.
Yeah.
And John went to Walt and said, "Walt, this is crazy." He goes, "Look at the level of detail. We're using real leather and real brass." And Walt, he said, was the one time Walt actually poked him and said, he said, because John was claiming that the guests wouldn't appreciate it. And Walt said, even if they can't articulate it, he said, and I'm paraphrasing this, he said, they know that we're doing something special for them, and they're going to feel special.
They feel it.
Yes. And I think that kind of thinking, went through all of what Imagineering does, and what we tried to do on the cruise ship.
Yeah.
Exactly what you just said a moment ago, that that Disney difference, going beyond what people expect, going beyond their expectation, and thinking about every detail. And again, even though the guests might not appreciate that it's real brass or it's real leather or that the the finishes are special, when they're in the space, they feel different. They know it's nice. And Walt also said that that's why people behave themselves better in the parks, because they know they're in a special place and that we've gone above and beyond to give them something better, and they're respectful of that.
And something, I am sure that was true in Walt's day, but you and I both know people can be animals that go into these parks. I remember vividly doing a refresh of Alice in Wonderland at Disneyland, and we did the walkthrough of the attraction with
I know where you're going.
the house lights on. And I was walking up to one of the figures and I was starting to put my hand out, and somebody said to me, "Don't touch that." And I said, "Why?" He says, "Because the guests spit all over that figure." Yeah. And I was like, "Oh, good God," so there's crazy stuff, and they're throwing Coke bottles or cans of Coke through stuff. I mean, people can be really terrible,
Yeah. And unfortunately, I think that's true. I think probably more in the domestic parks. The Japanese parks, I gotta say,
you're never gonna see it over there.
Yeah, I mean, they're spotless, they're immaculate, but that's also a product of the culture.
Sure.
You got 40 million people living in Tokyo, and they're just very respectful of the fact that, they're part of this bigger thing. They call it the Wa, and they want to be respectful of that. And so they're very well behaved. And, and in fact, every time I go to Japan, I'm always amazed at how few trash cans there are, public trash cans. I'm not talking about in the park. I'm just talking in Tokyo. How few trash cans there are and how little trash there is on the streets.
Well, and the amazing thing is, I always marvel is when I fly into Narita Airport and I have a car taking me into Tokyo, you virtually see no graffiti or litter on the highway. I mean, it's just so well maintained, and it just shows the culture itself. The Japanese culture has a respect for one another and for their environment.
Very much so.
And I like to think that that's true in some of the other parks around the world, but certainly here in California or Florida, it's a different story, because there's people that are doing things they shouldn't be doing, which is sad.
Yeah, I was very fortunate, Dave. Early on in my in my tenure at Imagineering, one of the first things I got to do was work on the Tokyo park, and learn about SQS, show quality services, and work with the Japanese on understanding, we were telling them how to maintain the park, but in essence, we were also learning from them and their attention to detail and how meticulous they were about maintaining the park. And in fact, later on, when I became an executive and I was in charge of the parks there, it made me a little crazy.
That's a highfalutin executive.
That's what my business card said. But it actually made me a little crazy, because regardless, they have this schedule they follow that said, in September, we're going to rehab the Pinocchio ride. And regardless of how much wear and tear there was on it, and sometimes it would be very little, they would go in and meticulously clean, repaint, check all the mechanics on everything, and I mean, so many people, other Disney bloggers, Disney fans, they always talk about how, impeccably maintained those parks were. And for me, there was a period there, especially during the dark days of, what was his name? oh God, the one executive, I've taken it out of my memory. Paul Pressler, who
Yes.
where his edict was, run things to failure. And we saw what that ended up. The parks were in a very, very poor place. But at the same time, it was during that period I was working with the Tokyo parks, and I just remembered how fortunate I felt. I remember going to Toontown at Disneyland and seeing how it had fallen into ill repair.
Yeah.
The tree house, all the leaves on it had fallen off, and the fountains weren't working. But then I would go to Tokyo, and everything in Tokyo looks like opening day.
Yeah.
Last time, I can't remember last time I was there. It was a number of years ago. And actually my daughter had come back with then my son-in-law, and we had gone to Tokyo Disneyland together. My daughter and I rode Splash Mountain, and Splash Mountain was one of my first big attractions that I got to work on in Tokyo. And I remember, here it is, probably 25 years later, and my daughter and I are riding the ride together, just like we did when she was like 5 years old. And we got off of it, and I said to her, that looks as good as the day when you and I first rode it, after they opened it.
It's no secret, and I've talked about it on this podcast in the past, but to me, the Disney Seas Park is the crown jewel in the park system. It to me is just the most unbelievably detailed and beautiful park in the system.
Yeah.
So
and again, I was very fortunate, and not only to be able to have worked on the original design of that park, but then at one point to be in charge of the park and help with building some of the improvements and expanding the park. And again, I the tip of the hat to the Oriental Land Company, who owns and operates those parks. That they always wanted quality, and they always wanted to do things. And a lot of it, is based on a different business model. Their return on investment is different than Disney, and so. And as we've been talking to, culturally too. I mean, Japan's it's a different place and has a different cultural outlook on how you think about things and how you maintain things.
Well, I have to say it is a stunning park, and kudos to you for being part of all of that. We're starting to bump up against time again, Joe. So
David, time flies by when we're talking.
Well, it really does, because we're just having a good time chatting and bantering about all this stuff. I look forward to having you back on the show again at some point in the future, because I love it when you and I exchange emails and you say, hey, I want to come back on the show. And I'm like, anytime. I always like hearing your stories. So, maybe in the fall or something like that, we'll get you back in and pick up a couple more episodes with you.
Okay, maybe now that you're traveling to Paris to visit your daughter, and I got a place in Madrid, maybe we'll do a podcast from Europe.
I would love to do that, because I'm going to be traveling over to Europe more frequently in the coming years, and there's a whole bunch of folks over there that I want to sit down with and interview, and I would love to interview you in Madrid.
Okay, we'll do that.
We're gonna do it.
We're gonna do that, Dave. For sure.
All right. Well, Joe, thanks for being on the Skull Rock podcast. It's always a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you. The pleasure is always all mine. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it. You take care.
Let's get out of here!
Come on, Scotty, let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here, Lieutenant.
All right, Dave, what a great series of interviews. Always great to have Joe on the show.
It really is. I always enjoy it when he and I connect, and he says, hey, let me come back on the show. Or I say, hey, Joe, come on back on. Let's talk about X or Y. And, it's just always enjoyable to have him on and talking about theme parks and immersive worlds and all of that.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Great to have him back on the show. I know this won't be his last, but wonderful interview. Gang, thank you so much for once again joining us on our show. We're past 300, gang. And having said that, don't forget to like us on all the social media channels. We have links in our show notes. Be sure to also register to win Dave's new book. It's coming out in the fall. Links in the show notes for that as well. All you have to do is just subscribe to the show on our various platforms, YouTube, Spotify, your favorite podcast app. Give us those reviews and you'll be registered to win. You only have a few more weeks left, so go ahead and do that. And gang, you can follow me, Aljon Go, on Instagram. You can also follow me on X, and you can also check out the other show that I'm on, Dining at Disney Podcast, where we talk about Disney theme parks and, of course, the food. Dining at Disney every single week with new episodes in our YouTube. Kristen's got a bunch of great time-saving and great reviews on Disney restaurants every single week there at diningatdisney.com. Dave?
Well, as always, you can hear me throughout the month on the Tunes Behind the Tunes on Sirius XM, Disney Hits, Channel 133. During the month of August, I'll be spotlighting a new song, and I'll let you know what that is next week. Also, you can get some signed copies of many of my books at theoldmillpress.com, so check that out. And I will be letting you know when the pre-orders will be available for my new Walt Disney World War II Animation on the Front Lines book, which is coming out in November. So we're going to try and get the pre-order page up for September. But I will let you know in advance, so you'll be one of the first to know. You can also go to my website, davidbossert.com. There's lots of free content. There's free stuff to send away for, so on and so forth. Check that out. And, of course, I have a Patreon page, Aljon. Patreon.com/David Bossert. That's where you can find me. Patreon.com/David Bossert. And I'm starting to put up more frequently articles on various things that are of interest to me, and I hope are of interest to you, that are Disney and animation related. So check that out at patreon.com/David Bossert. And with that, Aljon, I'm going to say, go out, have a fantastic week as always. It's the middle of the summer. There's just wild things going on out there in the world. Wild weather. There's heat, there's rain, and there's also some beautiful days to make memories. So go out and have a wonderful week, and we'll see you back here next Monday, right here on the Skull Rock Podcast.